what is a furry? Now, that is a question that the internet has had for a very, very long period of time. Something that's caused a lot of debate among the furry community itself, and it's something that has led people to put people into certain boxes. Today, I want to clear it up and give different parts of the furry community their own distinct definitions and terms, so then we can properly decide what group people fit in and where. A furry is an enthusiast for animal characters with human characteristics. In particular, a person who dresses up as a costume, as such, as a character, or uses one as an avatar online. So that's a pretty broad definition. It includes people who enjoy furry art, it includes people like me who dress up as characters such as this on VR, and it includes people who dress up IRL. Now, here's the thing. To have all of these lumped into one massive category can lead to a lot of these stigmas that we have behind the term of furry. Like, the first thing you think of when you hear the word VRChat Furry is probably the proximity chat videos, you know? Those are the first things that come to mind when anyone thinks of a furry, or you think of two people at a furry convention making out in a fursuit. So this is why I want to give very distinct definitions on the different types of furries and give them their own terms. So then rather than just using this blanket term that lumps everyone into one box and gives everyone the same stereotypes, we can get a little bit more accurate into the different parts of the furry community. Okay, so we're gonna go in order of least cringe definitions to most cringe definitions. We're gonna start at the very bottom of the list at what's pretty much a normal level. The first category I'd like to call is the furry art enjoyer. So this is someone who simply just enjoys or is an enthusiast of anthropomorphic art. These can range from people who are a fan of different characters and shows that share a lot of human characteristics. Someone who, enjoys looking at furry art. Now, this excludes not safe for work art. This is just like general wholesome art, is what this definition is. These are people who, maybe enjoy things like Five Nights at Freddy's and are a huge fan of the characters. That is something that would traditionally, by the world, be considered as being a furry. But in this category, it's given its own category as someone who just simply enjoys anthropomorphic art, which is a perfect segue into the next category, which is a furry artist, someone who creates anthropomorphic art. So this is people who like to draw and post furry art. They might make 3D models. They might make avatars for people. Again, a lot of these people would be considered furries, but they don't always associate with the furry community, they just create art. So this is still at that, very tip of the iceberg, very normal. This is like most people at some point in their lives have fit into either of these two categories. Most people have either enjoyed some sort of anthropomorphic art or have made some sort of anthropomorphic art. This is the point, though, where we get a little bit out of the normal territory. Okay, so our next category here is where things start to get a little bit weird, right? This is where people start actually cosplaying these things. So the next category, it's still very much in the normal tier. It's kind of on the border of normal, and that's a little weird, bro. If it was a tier list, it's on that line that's between, normal or relatively normal to that's kind of weird, bro. So This group's a little bit in between. This is like the segue group between artistry and the traditional furries and fursuiters. So these are the partial cosplayers or the borderline furries. So these are the people who add quote-unquote furry aesthetics to either their online avatars or to their physical cosplays. These can be things like, maybe they think the ears are cute on, like a dog, and they're like, oh, I'd love to add that to my cosplay. They don't identify as a furry, they don't like anthropomorphic creatures, they just looked at a feature and said, that would look absolutely adorable on this cosplay, I think I'm gonna use it. And it can even be things such as a tail or, having certain anthropomorphic features, sort of like, for instance, to give an example, for an online avatar, it can be something like this, where, starts off as a normal person, but maybe they enjoy having the ears on it, just because they think the ears look cute. This is right on that borderline, not quite an actual furry yet. Next, we have the suitors. So these people I've split into two categories because there's two different levels of this. So we'll do the broad definition first. Your fursuiter, someone who enjoys cosplaying anthropomorphic characters, but not necessarily identifying as that character, can either be online or IRL. So this is where we break it down even more. There are two subcategories of this. There's the online suitors and the IRL suitors. So first, the online suitors, or as I like to call them more accurately, the floofs. These are people who only wear avatars online. They may just be an enjoyer of certain furry avatars, or may also enjoying cosplaying anthropomorphic characters as a hobby, but they don't really take it seriously enough to actually get the materials IRL. This is personally the category I'd most likely fit into, because I enjoy the online avatars, I like wearing the online avatars, and I feel they really suit me, especially with avatars like this, where I just like to be, looking cute and cuddly on VR. I don't identify as the character, I don't want to be that character, but to me it's fun to just dress up and roleplay as the character in VR, and then just take the headset off and go back to my normal everyday life. This is where a majority of the VRChat furries would probably fall into. It's kind of in that weird territory, but it's like not crossed over yet, which is why I felt the need to break this category into two parts, because a lot of the times those IRL suitors will take it a lot more seriously than someone who goes, hey, that's a cool avatar, I want to wear that. And the only reason why this is considered to be in the weirder category is because a lot of people look at it as kind of odd, like, why is that the avatar you choose? Like, why don't you pick a humanoid avatar? And there's a lot of reasons as to why someone would pick furry avatars. One, they're very well made. For me, that's the biggest thing, is they're a lot better made than trying to go fully human for an avatar. They're not as uncanny. So you're gonna have a lot of people who aren't really interested in legitimately cosplaying, but enjoy the avatars on VRChat just because they look good. So that's why this is broken into two separate categories, which is a perfect transition into the IRL suitor category. These people are what I like to call the traditional furry. This is what most people in the community consider as a furry. Again, this is coming from someone who used to identify as part of the overarching community. So this is from the insider information I gathered when I used to be big into that thing. So the IRL suitor, or the traditional furry, is someone who cosplays as an anthropomorphic character IRL, or desires to cosplay IRL. So these are the people who may go to conventions or just cosplay in their own house in their free time. These are the people where it starts to get into that weird territory, depending on who's doing it, because you have certain people who wear it in public. You have certain people who just go to the conventions and wear it there or wear it at home. This is where you really get into that traditional furry, where they're dressed up in a fursuit, they have like the mask and the paws made and everything, they got the tails, they got the whole shebang, they got the whole thing going. This can be someone who only has pieces of a suit and is trying to build a suit, or maybe they're not trying to build a suit and they just have pieces of it. Again, this is someone who desires to cosplay as this in real life. So you can see here where the separation is between the online and the real life one. It becomes more of an actual hobby than just an aesthetic that you're choosing. And that's where we get into the territory of it starting to bleed into your lifestyle. And this is where we get into the next category. I'm sure a lot of you guys were waiting for this next one. Okay, so this is the one I've kind of been dreading talking about, because this is one where, to me, this gets on the morally shaky territory, and this is where a lot of people would consider it to be in the extreme cringe territory. It's a pretty massive leap, but there are people all in the suitors category where that suitors category kind of fills up this gap, because there's a lot of people who are on this side of it who don't take it as seriously, and then there are people who integrate it more and more into their identity and who they are. This category, the Therians, are the ones who take that being a part of their identity to the extreme. So these are the people who they just straight up identify as non-human, or they identify as or directly with their anthropomorphic character. They may also be a suitor or cosplayer, but they're the people who genuinely believes that they are that character. Think that that one cat girl in middle school that was in the back of the class hissing at everybody. That would be considered a Therian. When they start acting like their character in real life, when it's no longer role-playing, when it takes over as a part of their identity. And this is where it gets dangerous if you're at this end of the spectrum of the furry community, to the point that this is where furries start disassociating from these type of people, and they consider it their own category and their own completely own thing. But the world would most likely consider it as part of the furry community, which is why it's in this video. This is the most extreme end of the spectrum. This is where a very small minority of furries actually lie, is in this Therian category. I want to make myself clear. I'm not hating on these people. I don't have any ill intent towards these people. Even though I say they're cringe and everything, it is clear with these people that they need some help. Now, these are the people I would pray for, and I would hope that they get healing in whatever they need healing from. See the truth. These are the people who are really in need and are at a certain level of delusion that the rest of the furry community is not. Even as far as this next, even more extreme category, which will not have any visual examples for obvious reasons. Okay, let's be honest. We all knew this category was coming up. You can't make a video talking about furries without bringing up this specific category. And I think it's fitting that I ended up in the bedroom for this one. Because this is the oh wow, why category of things. This is where things get into the extremely weird territory is in that same unhealthy obsession category as the Therians. So this is the Fetishizers, or the stereotypical furry, aka this is what most people think of when they hear the term furry. This is someone who fetishizes anthropomorphic characters and uses furry art or furry cosplay to indulge in sexual fantasies. Now, admittedly, when I was big into the community, this is a category that I used to fall into and have since distanced myself from. Some people, that's their whole reasoning for being in the community, is an enjoyment of not safe for work furry art or doing not safe for work things in cosplay or in roleplay as a character online. Again, this is in one of those extreme categories. I don't know the percentage of people that are in this category, but it is a bigger problem because it's a larger percentage than the Therian one. I've met a lot of people, especially online, who indulge in this category and fall into this category. Now, that category may not be necessarily the reason why they are a part of the community. It may be mainly because of the IRL suitor category, or the traditional furry category. But when you reach the stereotypical furry category, or as I like to call them, the fetishizers, this is what most people think of, unfortunately. And this is why I have since dropped that as part of the thing that I identify with, because I don't want to be associated with that part of the community. This is where most of the stereotypes come from. Some of them come from the Therians, most of them come from this category. And that's mostly what drives people away from wanting anything to do with the community at all, which is completely understandable. Now, again, I want to clarify, I'm not saying this to judge these people, alright? I understand we're free to do whatever we want. Someone who no longer indulges in it, I look at it now, and I think it's a bit odd. I think it's a bit weird, and I can't help but think that. At the same time, yes, you have rights to do that. I would strongly advise against it, and I would strongly advise that those people in the Therians please come to Christ. That is my personal view on it. You don't have to agree with me. I understand if you don't. But this is my viewpoint on it, and for moral reasons, since becoming a Christian, I feel both these last two categories are very wrong. And I believe the Bible teaches that too. So, I hope this helped clear things up for people and give everyone a little bit of a better idea as to what exactly the furry community is and the different parts of it, and why certain parts of it don't like identifying with other parts. This is not a call to call people a furry who fall into any of these categories, because they very well may not identify as such. Like for me, I technically fall into the floof category, but I don't consider myself a furry. And there's a lot of people like me in that category who walk that borderline between traditional furry, but aren't considered furries. A lot of it comes down to what you personally consider yourself, how you act, how seriously you take things. It's a lot broader of a category than you would previously expect, because there are all these different subcategories. So to lump all of them in as one, and immediately the second you see someone in an avatar, consider them as oh, this person's the Therian type, or they're the sexualized furry type, or they're, they wear fursuits in real life and they're just overall weird. You're not really considering the fact that there are these different categories that people fall into. Now, there are a lot of people who fall into multiple of these categories, who consider themselves furries or do not consider themselves furries. This is a thing that you can really only figure out by talking to people, figuring out what their lifestyle is, figuring out how seriously they take it. You can tell more based on how someone acts and reacts to things. I just wanted to put this here to create some better definitions, and to better categorize these different types of anthropomorphic enthusiasts. Because, again, not all of them want to be considered furries. So, I hope this cleared things up a bit, gave a bunch of broader definitions, and hopefully leads people to stop fighting each other over things that aren't an issue. I think we definitely have bigger issues in this society. I'd even say within the Christian community, we have bigger issues than if someone's a furry or not. And I hope that this was an educational experience for everybody, and I hope that these definitions stick, because that would be very nice to actually have these individual things in their own little categories instead of lumping them all in together, because it really is a lot wider of a thing than just they're furry. So, with that being said, I just want to thank you all for watching. Please remember to like or dislike, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see all of you in the next video. You can expect a lot more videos like this. Deuces.